Alex Rogan lives in a small trailer park in the California mountains. He has a dream to go to college.
You guys think I'm gonna hang out here, watch you shine your pickup? Forget it, man. I'm doing something with my life.
Start a career.
You really are leaving here, aren't you?
Of course I'm going away. We're both going away.
Both of us, Alex.
And most of all, to get out.
You get your chance. Important thing is when it comes, you gotta grab it with both hands.
Then, one night, a mysterious stranger offers Alex an opportunity he never dreamed of.
Who are you?
I'm Centauri, and you may... No, you must trust me implicitly. Get in.
Nothing Alex Rogan has ever imagined could prepare him for what he is about to experience.
Hey.
Why was Alex chosen? And will he ever return?
Where are we going?
Trust me. Oh, you're gonna love it. Love it. Look out! Oh, dear.
The last Starfighter. His adventure in space is about to begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special retro review of The Last Starfighter, released in 1984. And my name is Sean.
My name is Jay.
My name is Frank.
So we've been talking about doing this one for a little while. And, I think we recently found out Frank had never seen The Last Starfighter, and just a great excuse to go back and revisit this one. Also recently released on 4K, I believe. Did anyone watch this in 4K?
I did.
Okay. Very cool. And how did that affect your experience watching this film?
The 4K looks really nice. I mean, the computer generated effects are a little bit limited, but in terms of you can see a slight aliasing in there, but
okay.
Considering it looks really good considering the age, but everything shot just regularly on film looks great.
Well, I watched it on Blu-ray, and I don't know if there's multiple Blu-ray releases or what, but I was thinking it looked surprisingly good, better than I remembered. So can only imagine how the 4K looks.
I seem to remember that Blu-ray getting really bad reviews, but
yikes.
What can I say?
Look it up, Jay. I also watched that Blu-ray. I have no comment on the quality. I'm not qualified to say anything about it, but I think I'd never seen this movie. I probably bought the Blu-ray 10 years ago. It's been sitting there and it's been in a stack of watch or get rid of. So I finally got to watch it. And part of this it's about video games. I'm the king of games, the king of game design. And I really needed to weigh in on The Last Starfighter. And Nick Castle directed it. And I like I haven't seen every one of his movies, but I love Dennis the Menace. And I really enjoy Major Payne. I did not rewatch either of those for this week, but I was like, I really need to check this one off the list of shame. Remove it.
Mm-hmm.
I can confirm that, at least on Blu-ray.com, that release got a 2.5 out of 5 for video quality, and was described as being artificially enhanced, removing any true film-like appearance.
Oh, Sean.
Well, hey,
Sean
that's 2.5. I can't wait to see what a 10 looks like. But I think part of it...
It's out of 5. It's at a 5, dude.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Well, we'll get to it, but I think part of it was the CG stuff looked better than I remembered. And, we'll get into the specifics of that. But I guess we should say,
Frank,
too,
do you want to jump in and offer any comments now on the video quality?
No, if we're talking a little bit about the quality of the special effects,
we're talking about the presentation.
I have nothing to say about the presentation. Zero. Other than I still hate those old universal menus. And and if you pause too long, it goes to the screensaver, and
Yeah. And you have to hit that like specific title menu button or whatever to get back. And
don't even get me
believe
started
me.
on the interface for PlayStation for this. Like throwing a PlayStation controller into the mix changes everything. I moved my OLED to my living room, so I'm only using my PS5 as a Blu-ray player, 4K player. And man, I immediately remembered why I stopped doing that. It's the worst. And it bumps the audio down for everything. Do you find that? Like everything plays at a lower volume through the PlayStation. Anyway, we don't need to go there.
I did not notice that, but I agree the UI is brutal.
Although this movie is
Does it?
Oh, it might be relevant.
I just before we move on, just briefly, when you watch something like this Blu-ray and you're like, oh, it looks amazing, and then you realize it got a 2.5 out of 5, and that it was artificially enhanced, that the grain wiped clean, the sharpness bumped up. Do you ever think to yourself, do I even care? Like, do I even need the 4K if I'm happy with this? Like, if I'm happy with a 2.5 out of 5, should I just live in that zone?
I think that all the time, specifically about older films. But I mean, I guess it does bring up the question of maybe I don't like the film grain. I don't know. And I noticed it in some scenes, but I wasn't really thinking about that.
This is not an attack.
I know, but I have that thought sometimes too. But it's a very fleeting thought because immediately it's replaced by, of course, you have to buy the 4K. Even if you don't like the movie, it's required.
Yeah, it is required. I agree.
But for no other reason than buy. Like it has.
Yes. 4Ks, specifically boutique 4Ks, are getting more and more expensive, it seems, all the time. But I was going to say, we should mention, obviously, like you mentioned, Nick Castle directed it, but for people who don't know, Nick Castle is also the Shape from Halloween. So I don't know how many people knew he had a directing career, but he did direct quite a few movies. And I would say
he also co-wrote Escape from New York.
Mm-hmm. But I would say this one in particular has a very strong cult following. And I mean, for me, like I did watch it as a kid, but it's weird because you would think it would be one of those ones that I would really like. Obviously, I really like Cloak and Dagger, video games, and spy movies. Why wouldn't I like video games and sci-fi? But I don't know, something about it didn't stick with me. And I do remember rewatching it years ago because Jay did a screening of this at Silicon Nights. And at the time, I remember being kind of
really.
Like,
I don't remember that at all.
I'm pretty sure, and I kind of remember being disappointed by it. Like I guess I had it in my head as this amazing movie, and then I was like, "Oh, it's cheap. It looks cheaper than I thought." I don't know. Something about it disappointed me.
Maybe it might have been the version with the organic film grain that you were seeing.
It could have been the film grain.
Like,
definitely possible. But anyway, I mean, rewatching this time, it kind of bounced back for me. Like I don't think it's like amazing, but I really like it. I think for me, the where it falls apart a bit is I feel like the third act is not as exciting as maybe it should be. But I don't know, Jay, what's your sort of history with this film and your experience watching it this time?
I watched it as a kid as well, and I liked it, but I was kind of similar in that it wasn't a favorite. Interstellar. I guess maybe because it's so close to Star Wars. First off, so as a kid, that can both be a something that's attractive, but also something that might be like, well, it's not Star Wars, but. The thing, I think the movie that I always kind of connected it with was Critters. The idea of, mainly with the two, we reviewed Critters, didn't we?
I don't think so. I don't even know if I've ever seen Critters.
Well, the idea of the mainly the two bounty hunter, critter hunter guys coming down, and like this idea of a small rural community that is kind of dealing with a bigger drama, space drama. But I do remember the special effects being impressive at the time. And honestly, I think they're still impressive for 1984. Ron Cobb did a lot of the production design, including the main ship. And there are some shots where that ship looks pretty good. And some of the lighting looks good for the time. But then, of course, you get to some sequences like going through the cave thing, and it looks a little dodgy, but also has its own charm to it. But the makeup effects, while not like, you know, they're of a time, I think are interesting looking. Like Alex changing in his bed with that sort of the beta version turning into Alex. I remember that freaking me out as a kid. There's some stuff in here that, even though it clearly is leaning towards a kid's movie, there's some moments that are pretty intense, I would think, for younger kids. Like the spy being tortured. What's that?
Some major jump scares too.
Yeah. It's I also really like the location, the idea of it being at this trailer park, and you know, the neon sign, and really focusing on having like a great starscape above the trailer park. And that's where a lot of the Star Wars feeling comes from. Like, it's almost like he's on Tatooine. But yeah, I mean, if anything, watching it now, realizing his name is Alex Rogan, and it's like Alex Jones meets Joe Rogan, and he's talking about aliens. Like, this is amazing. Like a conspiracy where video games are being used to recruit the youth to go fight against lizard people in space. Hillary's definitely in on this shit.
Well, I agree about.
I want to know what Frank thinks.
Well, I agree about the special effects, and if we're coming at this from a video game angle, we obviously all worked at a video game company. I still work in that field and play the shit out of video games, but I don't think playing video games is really all that relevant to this or designing them. I'm not a video game artist, but that is the takeaway here in terms of modeling, texturing, and the technology, especially compared to Tron. Like, Tron was 3 years before this, if I'm not mistaken. And Tron, everything's flat, very few textures. And like, if you kind of look at a timeline and put Tron, The Last Starfighter, which is like towards this end, and then way up here is Toy Story 1, I would say. It's way more impressive what The Last Starfighter does. There's textures and things in the background of Toy Story that are comparable to what The Last Starfighter does. Lighting is a different story, but I think the ship models and a lot of the things look really good and hold up. And I think a lack of texture helps it, because they weren't really good at texturing then. So the fact that the ship is mostly flat colors and they don't lean into texture too much, it still has a very clean and timeless look to it. Where the stuff that Jay was talking about, the caves and asteroids and stuff like that, where they texture things, that tech really wasn't there yet. But technically very impressive. And speaking of timelines, I have to think of little Frankie, what little Frankie would have thought if he saw this when he was like 7 or something like that, versus me seeing it now. And it is a complete...
Little Frankie? You're just talking about little Frankie?
I'm Big Frankie.
This is Big Frankie talking about little Frankie?
Little Frankie would have been terrified.
Yeah, but I think that's why I specifically said 7, the age of 7. That's when I watched Labyrinth and other stuff that was kind of too scary for me. I think this would have fit in there. And I would have loved the little brother.
Alex, what the hell's going you're having a terrible nightmare.
I can say that right now, definitively. He was grossed out by all the kissing, all this stuff, diarrhea lines, and what the shit, and all this stuff. I loved Wesley from Mr. Belvedere. I loved Problem Child. That little brother fits in perfectly in that little niche. So
you loved Wesley from Mr. Belvedere's?
Yeah. I love Wesley.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
When I was 7,
online, he calls himself
Carnock's Legend. First season of Mr. Belvedere, I was like, this kid's the best. Wesley's the coolest. So because he was always getting into trouble, which is weird because I wouldn't break rules or wouldn't do anything that would get me in trouble. But that
you lived vicariously through exactly. Wesley.
But I think this little brother would have been even better. I would have thought he was even funnier than both of those. And when people were saying Home Alone is the best, and I'd be like, no, actually, the little brother from the last Starfighter is the best. I wish we would have done this on the movie review show back in the day. But in terms of story, I like it. It's fine. It's pretty simple. And I love the special effects. And special effects relating to makeup and costuming and stuff. All the alien creatures are kind of interesting. And the one moment I absolutely love is like that weird squid creature where they step on the tentacles and all that stuff like that. There's little
it's
stuff
like Men in Black style.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I mean, you can see at least partial influence from this movie and tons of other things. I'm sure we'll get to some of those, but I really appreciated that. And I like small decisions like how in the alien hub or center, whatever it is, like this idea that like everyone has like these kind of balding hair patterns and stuff like that. And like aesthetically potentially unpleasing ideas. Like I think the designs lean towards like unpleasing rather than pleasing, especially on the what's the official title or term of the alien sent to hunt the beta or hunt Alex, but they don't know it's a beta.
Oh, there were so many names. Was it
bounty hunter? It's like
I can't remember.
The hit beast.
Is it? Are you sure? Hit beast or something like that. Like that design is kind of terrifying, and it would have scaled me a bit. A little Frankie would have been scaled, and I enjoy it.
It's more of a horror movie design with some of the alien creatures, which I guess coming from Nick Castle maybe makes a little bit of sense. I just want to mention as well, the special makeup effects were done by Lance Anderson, who was in the Crow episode of Cursed Films, and his son did the effects for Serpent in the Rainbow. Cool. But yeah, it did very, obviously of the era, and maybe a little limited in terms of animatronics and stuff like that, but the designs are definitely cool. And I think Sean maybe has a new Halloween costume potentially down the road. Lobot can kind of take a back seat to some of the, I don't know what the race is called, but the people with the they're kind of like Klingons a little bit, but no bumps and just white hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty sweet.
Rylands, I think. Is that
Ryland? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
One of them credited on IMDb as Ryland technician. So good job, Sean. You've done your research.
Yeah, I was trying to remember all these names.
Because he was thinking about a Halloween costume. He was like, I got to go as a Ryland technician this Halloween.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, speaking of influence, you mentioned Men in Black. The scene in the tunnel where they drive the car really fast when Centauri picks him up. That's like Men in Black almost exactly when they hit the red button.
Yeah.
Pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
The other influence I noticed mild was Guardians of the Galaxy. How there's that net or network of all these things. What do they call it? The is it Foundation or what? It starts with an F, doesn't it? Frontier. Sorry. And that's like the shielding. I think Guardians of the Galaxy 1 when the ship kind of goes through it and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's weird because I kind of remember having a conversation when we talked about Guardians 1, and people kind of saying that was a cool idea, a cool, unique idea we've never seen before. And yet it seems kind of similar to this movie. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I was thinking about is, Frank, before we watched it, you kind of mentioned that, you thought maybe it was similar to Ender's Game. And I mean, Ender's Game is a bit different. It's not somebody being recruited because they're good at video games. It's just they're training through video games, and it kind of turns out to be real. But I just was surprised. I looked it up, and Ender's Game came out after this movie. So I mean, hey, I'm not. I don't think they're that similar, but it's kind of surprising.
So I watched some of the special features, and I did not put this together watching the movie. But who wrote the script? Let me get the name here. Jonathan Betuel. I don't know if that's right, pronouncing it right, but he said the inspiration was the sword and the stone, which totally makes sense. Where this sword Excalibur that you pulled to prove yourself worthy, the arcade was a version of Excalibur that proved you were worthy to fight. I love that idea, and it's abstracted enough that it's not obvious that that's the source material, or at least it's not obvious to me. But I thought that was a really neat take on that story.
You can kind of see that subtly in the designs of the aliens as well. Like there's a bit of knights in armor feel. I love the orange armor from the bad guys, but also just the feeling of like a big round table. And is there a round table in it? There's
a table. There's definitely a table.
A little bit. It's probably round. But yeah, that makes sense. No round table. But the another interesting thing is you mentioned the car scene from Men in Black. This is also predating Back to the Future. And while it's not a DeLorean, it certainly has the features of a DeLorean, with the gull-wing doors and the color. And so I don't know. I wonder.
I don't think it's pre-DeLorean though.
No. But the idea of like a vehicle that looks like that.
Back to the Future comparison. I didn't think about this until right now, but Centauri and Alex is a this is
Doc and Marty.
Marty, I could not think of Marty. I'm losing it, dude. It's almost over. I'm done. But not just the relationship, but spoiler, the idea that he thinks he dies, like he witnesses him dying early on in the movie, and then comes back at the end. It's not as interesting as how Back to the Future handles it, but he comes back to life, and it's a similar vibe that he's relieved that he's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Speaking of DeLoreans, got to mention Ernie Klein has a book that he wrote that's basically a ripoff of The Last Starfighter called Armada. And it's kind of similar idea, except that I guess from what I remember, the idea is that all video games and movies that have aliens in them were all kind of created or implanted by aliens to prepare humanity for like an alien invasion coming to Earth, so that they're kind of like incept the idea, or that they're okay with the idea. I don't really remember where it goes from there, but it was very similar.
Sounds pretty dumb. Grieg, the co-pilot, his Han/Chewbacca, I guess. I don't know. I really love the makeup design, and I think it holds up quite well. You know, like when he talks, you can see it's a little foam latexy, but for the most part, I mean, I think they managed to keep the eyes and mouth intact enough that you actually, like when he laughs, how can you not smile when Grieg laughs? He's just like a happy, jolly guy. And he's played by the actor. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was the boss in RoboCop.
So speaking of that, I mean, I wouldn't have, even looking at Dan O'Hurley, I haven't watched RoboCop that recently. I might not have put that together. But this is the first time in a very long time where I've watched a movie and I don't think I've seen another movie with any of these performers. And it's like a well-known movie. I don't think I've seen anyone in this movie in anything else.
You have.
Which
the guy who plays Alex is young Clark in Superman.
Yeah, I've only seen that once. That feels like a bit of a stretch.
He was also in Jaws: The Revenge, I think, and Halloween 2, but I don't know if either of those are big roles.
Yeah, I was
also,
kind of, especially my favorite person in the whole movie is Robert Preston as Centauri. I think he really brings a lot in terms of that character. And in the special features, they said at some point they had the idea to cast him. And I've never seen, I think he's in The Music Man. I've never seen that, but that was his most famous role. And then they took a pass on the script and changed it, knowing it was going to be him, or hoping it was going to be him, I think.
Well, there's also Catherine Mary Stewart.
Maggie. Oh boy, it's about time we get to Maggie.
She was in Night of the Comet, which I really liked, and Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay. It's been a while for both of those. She gives me a hybrid of Allison Williams and Amanda Peet.
Yeah. That's pretty spot on. Especially Amanda Peet.
Mm-hmm.
She was just another one of those childhood movie crushes. But the big difference between this crush is she wasn't in my fantasy, my older sister.
But a hint of Alex P. Keaton's girlfriend on Family Ties as well. There was definitely an 80s.
Which one? The one he married?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she's great. And I mean, I'm going to say something, okay? That might be a hot take. Alex Rogan is less annoying and maybe more likable as a character than Luke Skywalker. I like Alex Rogan. I don't know where you guys stand, but I think Alex Rogan was a pretty cool guy. And I love how excited everyone is for him to beat a high score on the arcade machine at their trailer park.
I that was one that just went a little too far for me. I could not buy that.
I could totally buy that.
That late at night, everybody's just like, getting out of bed or getting out of whatever they're doing and watching them beat a high score that they know nothing about.
This arcade game is probably the central point of entertainment for a lot of people. So people are probably trying to log high scores all the time. That makes perfect sense to me. Sean, come on, bud.
Well, it is a community they have there, and you do get that sense. But just I don't know. I from the time period, I just feel like everybody would have been dismissing that as a waste of time, and it's kind of hinted at a little bit earlier in the movie. But
I agree with Jay. I think. I keep forgetting. Lance Guest as Alex Rogan is really good. I like him a lot.
He's very natural. It sucks that he didn't do more because he's natural. He's charismatic. He's hot as fuck, and he just really is a dependable performer. And it sucks that he wasn't because he did these big movies that really didn't lead to anything. It seems outside of the 80s.
And don't forget, he plays the beta version as well. Like he kind of has a dual performance, and there is subtlety between the two differences. And I think he's quite good,
including a wig. Apparently, they did some audience testing, and all of the stuff with beta back home really the audiences really reacted to.
They're losing it.
So they lost it completely. So they shot some additional material, but at that point he had gotten a haircut or something. So his hair looks strange at times.
I just watched the special feature. I can't. Yeah, I can't remember what movie. I feel like I knew the movie, but whatever.
I mean, I really like all that stuff, like with the assassins chasing him on Earth and all that like in some ways, I think that's more exciting than the stuff happening in space. But I really like that scene where he has to adjust his body, and like his brother wakes up and sees him with like his head detached and stuff. That's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. That was an added scene, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I also just another random kind of cool idea that I liked is when they cut off the arm of the one assassin, but then he's still able to shoot with the severed arm. I thought that was a cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Now we gotta get into this. You guys are hardcore gamers. The two of you equally on the same level.
Definitely not.
I agree.
You both are good. Like you're really good at video games equally. And I wonder what your thoughts are on the game as portrayed in the film.
Well, I mean,
it's got shooting in it. It's got shooting.
So, I did look this up, and I don't think there ever was an official game. Well, there was a game released, but it's not the game in the movie, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I know at the end credits, apparently Atari teases a game coming soon, but it never happened.
Yeah, and all I can say is I really wanted to play that Cloak and Dagger game. Didn't really care about the last Starfighter game.
Yeah, I don't know when Star Wars Arcade came out, but it looks a lot like that. Very similar with the like polygonal enemies and stuff like that. It looked okay. It looked like a pretty good 80s arcade game. Not necessarily something I'd want to play, but I thought you were going to go a completely different direction, which was if we were recruited to save the universe for a particular game, which one would it be? Like, what are they coming to get us for? We know what Jay's is, Jay.
Power Wash Simulator.
Dr. Mario.
Oh.
Dr. Mario is. If Dr. Mario could save the universe, you'd be on the list.
Yeah, for sure. But I also would be able to be the guy power washing all of the ships when they're back from their battles. What about you, Viva Pinata?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think of the game. I actually struggled thinking about this. I'm not great at one particular game. Maybe
you're good at. That's the problem. You're just so good at all of them, right?
No. I'm not so good. I'm good at a lot of games, but not exceptionally good at any of them. The only thing I could think of, which Sean, I know what you're going to say, but Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey for Nintendo 64. As long as I don't have a partner, as long as I get to save the galaxy alone, that would be okay. But
you gotta work. You gotta be a part of a team, though. That's
the problem. And what's another one that like Uncharted 1 might be up there? Pretty good at that game. Sean, do you have one? I was like, I don't know, Sean.
I mean, I would go the other direction. I don't have a specific one, but I would just say some kind of puzzle game, where I just need to sit and stare at a screen for 2 hours before coming up with the solution. That would be my
Solitaire.
Game. Maybe, yeah.
Minesweeper. I think I could be recruited off of Minesweeper. But Uncharted, I don't think that's a great what.
Lots of people are good at Minesweeper, dude. Like, relax.
Is there Minesweeper championships?
Yeah.
I don't think Uncharted is a great example because I feel like it requires a game that's less about story and more about eye-hand coordination.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm not saying it's great as a choice game that might save the universe. It's just I use it as an example of a game that I'm good at, that I've beaten a lot of times and I understand.
This guy just wants to talk about how good he is at Uncharted.
Oh, I'm just telling you.
How many times did you beat it? How many times did you platinum it?
Quite a few. I think I've beaten it like 12 times, 15 times. But another game, if it has to be
conservative estimate
team-based, I'm going Cuphead with my buddy Gavin.
There you go. Yeah.
He's 8 years old. We would be co-pilot. Mm-hmm. We would hand the game off. We platinum that game together. And we both had phases of that game. One was good at and the other wasn't so good at. And it was a perfect last Starfighter scenario.
Nice.
You could have said Sewer Shark.
I don't think I'm that good at Sewer Shark.
Oh,
But I could see that being a
fair
game
enough.
that saves the galaxy.
We should
Yeah.
point out that there was a real life example of this, which is America's Army. There was actually a first person shooter that was created, which the U.S. military recruited kind of based on and used for training and stuff. So
I had not heard about that.
yeah.
And when we were talking about films similar to this one, I think the closest thing I can think of is the upcoming Gran Turismo Neil Blomkamp game or movie.
Oh, we should have paired these two together. We went a little too early. It's a good call.
Yeah.
Well,
And
so
when I heard about the
same
concept,
idea.
yeah, when I heard of the concept of Gran Turismo, I was like, I kind of like the idea. I don't think the movie's going to be good, but that makes sense. Like someone who's good at simulation games being recruited to do the real thing. That's this movie. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So where do you guys stand on, like, there's a contingent of people that, you say, what's the best video game movie ever made? And they say, The Last
Prince of Persia.
Starfighter.
That's Sean.
Not a bad choice, but does The Last Starfighter qualify? I mean, obviously there's two there's games based on specific video games, and then there's just movies that are inspired by or about video games, and they're kind of two different things. But I feel like people always something like the Super Mario Brothers movie comes out, and there will be people, you got to watch the best video game movie, The Last Starfighter.
I mean, it sounds very similar to early on when comic book movies were becoming big, and it was like, oh, the best comic book movie is Spider-Man 2. No, it's a history of violence. We all know what we're talking about. I think they're different conversations, but I would say movies about video games, I guess it would be up there.
Yeah, I still have a soft spot for Tron, though. I think it's pretty close to Tron.
I think Tron is more aesthetically daring, and the music, the visuals. It's definitely more interesting as a piece of weird populist filmmaking, but I think The Last Starfighter is maybe a little more watchable.
Coincidentally, probably the worst movie based on a video game is Uncharted. Although there's many I haven't seen. What's the best
You
video
seen
game
Postal?
based on a movie? No, I have not seen Postal.
Yeah, you got to see all the Uwe Boll films first.
Borderlands is seeming like it's heading towards the direction of one of the worst. Apparently, it's been shot for like 2 years ago. They finished shooting it. It's been in post-production hell. And Craig Mazin just requested that his name be changed on it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I might
And they brought in Tim, what's his name? Tim Deadpool director.
Miller?
Whatever his name.
Reynolds?
Tim Miller. Tim Reynolds. They brought him in for reshoots on the Eli Roth directed Borderlands. Sounds like a bit of a disaster, but what were you going to say, Frankie?
I don't think I'm looking at a comprehensive list, but I think my favorite video game film adaptation might be the most recent Mortal Kombat. There's not a good track record here.
What about Doom?
I like Doom quite a bit as well. It would be between those two. And I'm sure there is another contingent of people that would say the best video game movie is Wreck-It Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
That's high.
Pixels? What about Pixels? You liked Pixels?
I did not like Pixels. I wanted to like Pixels, but I did not like Pixels. Might be time to revisit that one as well. Been a long time.
Still gotta watch Assassin's Creed one of these days.
Hey, the 4K is on sale at Best Buy in the States for like $5.99. I might just pop on it.
Yeah.
For someone who's so particular about the aesthetics of Blu-ray and 4K cover art, you're sure willing to destroy your collection with these like movies you don't even want.
Why does that destroy a collection?
Because you're talking about it aesthetically. Like you're talking about your collection as though it's this curated, you know, I can't have this type of release in there. I can't have slip covers. I can't have steel books, but I'll put the Assassin's Creed movie in there that I haven't even seen.
Yeah, but the aesthetic is not about content or quality of films. I proudly present Bumblebee as part of this shelf over here. It's about the actual movies.
I think it's about the aesthetic, and the aesthetic, the way in which you gauge something's aesthetic is purely just whether or not it's official or original.
I don't think that's true. I just disagree. Sorry.
Listen, agree to disagree, but I think I know you better than you know you. Okay. I figured this all out, dude.
Tell you what, a lot of people think they know me better than I know me. It's not just you.
What else? There's some really great, like Spielbergian, shots of the trailer park with the neon sign and him playing the video game. And I think some of the shots are really nice. The cinematography.
I think the ending shot is awesome, where it's the neon sign and it's on the left side of the screen. I thought that looked great.
Can we talk about the ending, or like, I don't know if we usually do spoilers for these or not. I guess we've kind of already thrown out a few, but
spoiler, he saves the universe.
Well, I kind of want to talk about the coming back for Maggie thing, which was like, feels like a really crazy decision to just put on her and say, okay, you got to decide, like, we're leaving. You got 30 seconds, go. Like, but it's like, especially because she really doesn't know what she's getting into. But it's, I guess, on the one hand, though, it is interesting because it does feel like it's setting up for a sequel, which never happened. But I guess there have been recent talks of, I mean, I feel like for years I've been hearing stuff like this, but I don't know if it's any closer to happening.
Yeah, I mean, that Maggie stuff at the end maybe stretches believability a little bit, or, for the reasons you're mentioning. But I think as a film that is about leaving the nest and, having these aspirations and wanting to follow your dreams, all of the stuff about him wanting to get into a college and not getting the loan for it, having to settle for city college, it's all leading towards that, like resolving that sort of wanting to do something with his life. And, and it makes sense in that regard that he's like, it'd be like the equivalent of, it's the sci-fi version of him leaving to go to school in New York City and asking her to come with him.
I mean, like
which also would be a big ask.
Yeah, and it does make sense. It's just weird how they play it in the movie, because she kind of takes a really long time to decide, and she's like kind of bringing up, like, what about all the people here? I got to help people here. So then by the time she does decide, you feel like, no, maybe you should stay. Like, it doesn't feel right anymore.
Hey, look, apparently it's really quick and easy to get back to Earth. So
yeah, that's true.
It's not like they're popping in and out of Earth like nothing. So not a big deal.
Yeah, they're picking up all the quarters from those games every week. The end of every week, Centauri's like, that's why they call him Centauri. He's just picking up. Do you think that's I know Centauri, but the cents from those Atari machines, this is what it's all about, because he's all about that money.
Never occurred to me, but that could be.
Does he talk about the money in the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Big time. That's like his big, he wants to make that money.
He doesn't care about saving the universe. He just wants to get rich.
I missed that, and that is embarrassing. We talked
another scene that scared me as child. was when Centauri does like takes his face off and turns around, and it's the alien with the glowing eyes. Nothing that is like overtly scary or creepy, but just some of the images in the movie are in that sort of weird zone of, I guess, kinder trauma, but
nightmare fuel for sure.
I can definitively say that would have scared a little Flanky. And we talked a lot about influences of this movie, but we haven't really gotten into stuff this movie kind of rips off. I think one element is the score. The one part sounds a lot like Indiana Jones, like a lot. And I still like the score overall, but I could feel it. It's done by Craig Safan, who did Thief, the score for Thief, which I also really like. And I didn't know. I was like, Safan, he's got to be related to Mark Safan, who wrote Win in the End, the basketball game song from Teen Wolf, which I love. So I was pleasantly not surprised, but was happy to see.
Is he related?
They are brothers. Yes.
Nice.
But
the only thing I know about the score is I guess they had one of the biggest orchestras to have this sound really large and cinematic.
Yeah, he mentioned that in the special features, that he was like, I went from writing like these smaller songs, and even like Thief is mostly synth and a smaller score, to like having to do a 120-piece orchestra, I think was what he said, which is kind of cool. Obviously, Star Wars ripoff stuff all over. Even some of the designs are Admiral Akbar-esque and a few other ones, but I still like them. It doesn't feel like a blatant ripoff. And I think in the special features, Nick Castle even says like we wanted to get away from being compared to E.T. and other stuff. Like we were trying to stand out on our own, even though there's influences there.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that goal, but I'm not 100% sure they did get away from that. I mean, the ending, the shot we were talking about is very E.T. with the ship flying away with the credits playing over top. And obviously the brother is a sort of Corey Feldman-esque stand-in. And the just sort of like Joseph Campbell hero's journey. It's, you know, obviously Star Wars didn't invent that, but it's so close to Star Wars that it does feel quite similar. But I think it's one of the better, if you would call it a Star Wars knockoff, one of the better ones. Mm-hmm. Which with the whole like Knights of the Round Table thing, or the Excalibur thing, also was sort of the way that Krull came together. The mixing of Star Wars with Knights of the Round Table and stories like that, design wise as well.
Yeah, I just to go back to the CG stuff just a little bit. Like I that's something where I like, you know, I had forgotten how much of it was CG, and again, I think it looked better than expected, except maybe when it gets more actiony towards the end, that's kind of the stuff where it doesn't hold up as well. But I am a bit surprised, like you were talking, Frank, about the, you know, Tron to like Toy Story, and you know, it's on that timeline, that progression of CG in film. I just feel like it's never mentioned as like an important movie in terms of progressing CG.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if it's like because it wasn't done by ILM or any kind of big company. Like I don't know who actually did the effects on it, but maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I agree. It's I was very pleasantly surprised by the special effects, considering the year.
It just might be too close to Tron in terms of timing. You know, Tron got there and kind of did it first, and even if Starfighter built on that and made it a bit better, they were still second. But
It looks like the company
Definitely
is called Digital Productions. Not the best company name.
Sweet name.
Oh no! I thought for a second I thought that was the name of the company that did all the full motion video games for Sega CD, but I think it's Digital.
Oh, right.
Or something. It's a D and a P.
The logo would always come up at the beginning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought another video game adjacent movie that I really want to rewatch. Sorry. Lost it here. I always get the name wrong. Relaxer by Joel
right.
And I really want to rewatch Relaxer and Buzzard.
What wasn't Buzzard more the I guess they both are video games.
No,
right?
Relaxer, he's trying to he's basically living on a couch and trying to eat a video, or get to a certain level in a video game and playing Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
I want to revisit both of those movies.
Yeah, those are good.
And I remember eating the bugles for some reason in Buzzard. There's so many things these weird one-off things I remember. It's almost like 90s Todd's Salons movies. This is weird things that I extract from both of those.
Mm-hmm.
There's a game or a movie called Arcade. That's a Full Moon production and directed by Albert Pyun, who did Cyborg and stars, what's his name, from Christmas Story, Peter Billingsley.
Yep.
And
he was in it too.
Who?
Q, John Delancey.
Oh, John Delancey. Looks horrendous, but also looks like it might be fun.
Yeah, definitely got
some really horrible CGI.
Weird.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you got to do an Albert Pyun premium one of these days.
Yeah. I've never seen The Lawnmower Man. Does it have any video game elements?
It's more virtual reality, right?
Yeah.
But is he playing virtual reality in it? Is it just that kind of idea for?
I think it's more of a technology thing. It's been a while since I watched it, but it's like an interface rather than a game.
And we should mention video game adjacent movies. Existenz, I think, would be a good one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. What did you think of the the branding of the arcade machine, and do you think it felt authentically designed?
Yeah.
Is it the logo that's like the sword inside the circle, or is that not on the video game? I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, that's on there. Mm-hmm.
I do like that logo.
What do you think of the Death Blossom?
I like the Death Blossom, but it also is like it. I mean, I get it from maybe a game design perspective, where you use this thing and it drains all of your energy, so you have to use it strategically. But it seemed a little in the setting of like a narrative, not something you're actually playing. Maybe was a bit easy, an easy solution, but I liked the visual of it.
Yeah, I wasn't fully buying it as an actual useful move that would destroy everyone, but it's kind of fun.
Frank, what do you think as the KOD?
I actually didn't put together. It was kind of a bomb mechanic. I might have missed a line in the movie that it would drain all the resources or something like that, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty neat. I was like,
that's the thing.
What are they going to do? I don't
think they mention it.
Okay, maybe they don't. So that was like, what are they going to do that kills every enemy in a radius? And I kind of like that it's just rotating really quickly and firing a bunch of bullets.
Yeah, I don't remember them mentioning that it drains the energy, but they mention it after it happens. That's the other weird thing, is they do it and then they're like, okay, what do we do? And Greg is like, the Death Blossom drained all the energy, dude. We can't do shit.
it is a little weird, or maybe, I don't know, it might grow on me. The idea that they wouldn't incorporate that into the game, that if using that resource or deciding when to use it is a factor, why is it not in the game? The movie frames it as it's a new thing. I think like we've just integrated this into it. So it's not a deal breaker for me.
Also, if you're looking at the game as a training simulator, maybe the main goal is to understand how players can fight one-on-one without the Death Blossom. But yeah.
You know, I don't know if it charges back up, if there is an economy system for the Death Blossom, but we don't need to go there. That's too technical game design talk.
Yeah. I will say the end credits for sure. And I think that some of the opening credits, the classic John Carpenter font, which Nick Castle, I'm sure, borrowed with intent.
Do we know the name of that font? We've probably talked about this before, or who designed it, if it was designed for those films?
I know that I don't know if this is the exact font, but there's a font called Albertus that is, I believe, the same font.
Okay.
Somebody needs to ask John Carpenter about that one of these days.
Yeah. I think that's it for me.
Me too.
Yeah. Again, I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure there was talk of like a sequel or a remake or a reboot. I have no idea where any of those are at, but I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix picks up the rights to The Last Starfighter one of these days. It kind of feels like something that would happen.
The only thing is there's no separation now between the video game CG and photorealistic CG. Like what would the video game look like? And what would it look like when he's in space? It would all look like movies look most of the time.
It's a retro game. It's the universe hasn't changed. So they still need people who are good at the old version of the game. That stuff hasn't gone. So it actually, that's the element. It's modern day on Earth, but then you go into this retro looking game. That's going to be huge.
That would definitely work, but I feel like it's too tempting for them to just make everything modern. Like I can't picture audiences sitting through the space battles looking that way, but that would be the way to do it. But
or you could do like almost The Messenger or something like that, where like it's filters over, like they have options for viewing the world in modern ways. Like it just interprets everything, and you could turn it on and off. And like in one sequence that he's used to playing the game with a modern filter, and then that system gets disabled and it reverts back to the old school version and all. Hey, edit this out. We got a rated treatment for this.
What about, I mean, even if it's not the retro 1984 game, maybe they come upon a slightly more modern version of the game that the Rylians or whatever dropped onto Earth, and it's a full motion video console game, and all of the battle scenes are done in like a 200 by 360 screen in the middle of the giant screen with 8 colors.
What if the full motion video game is the footage from the original Last Starfighter? So people eventually played the movie version, and like the clip is a digitized version of Centauri saying something and guiding you along the way. A lot of good ideas here. And I think if anything, maybe you start it with like the Wonder Boy and some of the other remakes where there is 2 ways of playing the game. Like you hit a button to turn it into retro mode, and then there's a modern version as well. And it just instantly updates the graphics. And we establish that early when people are playing this version, that they can turn that on or off. Like you got to play in retro mode. It's the only way to play. Diarrhea. Get some callbacks in there. I think
All
we're
right,
on. We got a lot of good ideas here.
There's a lot of callbacks that can be made for sure. Okay. I think that's it for me. Any other thoughts on The Last Starfighter?
No, sir.
Okay.
Nope.
What are you guys giving The Last Starfighter out of 5 stars?
I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm at 3.5, and I'll say, when I finished watching this movie, I had a relief that I didn't rebuy it on 4K to watch it. But I gotta say, by today, over the last few days since watching it and watching the special features, I think I might pop on that 4K, and I'm pre-watching it at a 4.5 for the next time I watch it.
You need to watch.
Well, I hope if you do, you will
4.5K
have some comments on the video quality and how it affected your rating. Because if a 2.5 out of 5 equals a 3.5 out of 5, what does a 4.5 out of 5 equal? I think I actually got a 4, but
I mean, I didn't give it any rating. That was all Sean. Sean can do whatever he wants. I will not give my
It's
input.
going to be
on
mind blowing,
anything.
Frank. That's what it comes down to.
I'm inadequate.
I will give it 4 stars. Definitely went back up for me and had a pretty good time with it. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.
that's it. Wrap it up.
For listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.